Got some new um, where's that voice? I bought some new books. Some political, some theological. Just wanted to show them off right quick. Now this one is Religion and Republic, Christian America from the Founding to the Civil War by Miles Smith. It's got a foreword by Kevin DeYoung. Looks like this. And the back says, a Protestant republic. In recent years, America's status as a, quote, Christian nation, end quote, has become an incredibly vexed question. This is not simply a debate about America's present or even its future. It has become a debate about its past. Some want to rewrite America's history as having always been highly secular in order to ensure a similar future. Others seek to reframe the American founding as a continuation of medieval Christendom in the hopes of reviving America's religious identity today. In this book, Miles Smith offers a fresh historical reading of America's status as a Christian nation in the early Republic era, defined neither by secularism nor Christendom. America was instead marked by, quote, Christian institutionalism, end quote. Christianity and Protestantism specifically was always backed into the American Republic's diplomatic, educational, judicial, and legislative regimes. And institutional Christianity and state apparatuses coexisted comfortably with disestablishment from the American Revolution until the beginning of the 21st century. Any productive discussion about America's religious present or future must first reckon accurately with its past, with close attention to a wide range of sermons, letters, laws, court cases, and more. Religion and Republic offers just such a reckoning. I think it came out recently, right? Because I saw it on Amazon, thought it looked interesting, so I bought it because it touches up on the same issues of religion and politics and stuff like that. And like here in the table of contents, has a foreword by DeYoung, acknowledgments, a preface, introduction, Jefferson. I think the first chapter is introduction, and then the second one is Jefferson. Third one is legislation. The fourth one is courts. Fifth one is Sabbath, and the sixth one is the world. The seventh is Indians. Chapter 8 is education, and then it comes with chapter 9, the conclusion. And at the end, it gives you like works cited. Yeah, this came out in 2024. This came out this year. Let's see. So it's like this. Haven't read it yet. So hopefully. I get to with this other one, I can start on that one. What other ones? This one is, well, actually, this one came out recently as well. This book is called American Covenant: How the Constitution Unified Our Nation and Could Again by Yuval Levin. It looks like this. It came out not too long ago, like maybe like what, I think this month, like a week ago, a couple weeks ago, right? It doesn't seem like it touches on the Christian aspects. Just, I guess it goes over the importance of the Constitution and stuff, which is good, because you should still have faith in what God established with you, instead of listening to either like left or right wing people who try to discourage constitutional faith, so to say. Like I guess I'll read the flap. It says, common ground is hard to find in today's politics and society teeming with clashing political perspectives. Many people have grown frustrated under a system of government that constantly demands compromise. More and more on both the right and the left have come to blame the Constitution for the resulting discord. But the Constitution is not the problem we face, it is the solution. Blending engaging history with lucid analysis, conservative scholar Yuval Levin's American Covenant recovers the Constitution's true genius and reveals how its charts how it charts a path to repairing America's fault lines, uncovering the framers' sophisticated grasp of political division. Levin showcases the Constitution's exceptional power to facilitate constructive disagreement, negotiate resolutions to disputes, and forge unity in a fractured society. Clear-eyed about the ways that contemporary politics have malfunctioned, Levin also offers practical solutions for reforming those aspects of the constitutional order that have gone awry. Hopeful, insightful, and rooted in the best of our political tradition, American Covenant celebrates the Constitution's remarkable power to bind together a diverse society, reassuring us that a less divided future is within our grasp. Again, its contents, starts off with introduction. And the first chapter is what is the Constitution. The second chapter is modes of resolution. Third chapter is the constituted public. The constituted public. Chapter 4 is federalism. Chapter 5, Congress. Chapter 6, the presidency. Chapter 7, the courts. Chapter 8, the constitutional partnership. Chapter 9, what is unity, and its conclusion. I haven't read it yet, so I can't comment on it. But this is what it looks like. If you're interested in it, you can check it out. Let me see. There's another book that I found on the Constitution, right? It's called Original Intentions on the Making and Ratification of the United States Constitution. It's by Emmy Bradford. Looks like that. And then it goes over the Christian dimensions of the Constitution. That's what why I was interested in it. Let me see. Like here it says, the forward by Forrest McDonald. This persuasively argued, decidedly partisan work aims to recover the original United States Constitution by describing its genesis, ratification, and mandate from the perspectives of its original framers. Openly challenging contemporary orthodoxy, M.E. Bradford employs principles of legal, historical, rhetorical, and dramatic analysis to reveal a constitution notably short on abstract principles and modest in any goal beyond limiting the powers of the government it authorizes. From the beginning of original intentions to sharply divergent convictions about the Constitution emerge, Bradford, arguing for a nomocratic viewpoint, regards the Constitution as an essentially procedural text created expressively to detail how the government may preside over itself, not its people. He decries the currently predominant, teleologic view, which is based upon the quote principles and quote embodied by the Constitution, and holds that the document was designed to achieve a certain kind of society. By this view, he says, our fundamental laws have been blanketed by a heavy layer of ad hoc solutions. Ad hoc solutions to problems they were never intended to address, and then further obscured by the myeloristic meddlings of judges, legislators, lawyers, scholars, and journalists. Bradford first shows that the Constitutional Convention of 1787 was an enterprise guided by the delegates' hesitancy to impose a higher order over their local, practical, and vastly different interests. Though all the states would ratify the Constitution, he says, each would interpret it in unique ways. Bradford underscores the dearth of lofty idealism among the original framers by detailing British influences on their political ethos, British common law, on which the framers heavily relied, evolved from a tradition of deliberate responses to practical needs and circumstances, not deductions from abstract utopian designs. And in light of these factors, Bradford examines the ratification debates of Massachusetts, South Carolina, and North Carolina, three states that together exemplified the vast range of interests to be accommodated by the Constitution. Next, Bradford highlights classical teleologic distortions, dissenting religion, and the First Amendment. He establishes a pervasive commitment to Christianity among the framers and challenges our notions about the separation of church and state. Warning against anachronistic readings of the Constitution, Bradford also analyzes the rhetoric of the framers to reinforce our awareness of their desire for a government that would contain their multiplicities and all seek to resolve them. In a reading of the Reconstruction Amendments 13th, 14th, and 15th, Bradford argues that they had only a modest impact on the Constitution's original design. By the misconstruction of these amendments, however, the Constitution has been transformed into a quality-purpose-oriented blank check for redesigning American society, end quote. In the final chapter, Bradford critiques Mortimer Adler's "We Hold These Truths," that's the title of the book, and repudiates any broad connection between the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Before the Constitution is irreparably damaged, Bradford says we must realize that it was not the best that the framers could invent, but the best that their constituencies would approve. Debates related to normative issues should be settled not within the Constitution but within society, away from the coercive forces of law and politics, or else by amendment. So I thought that other book was interesting, so I just went ahead and bought it. And let me see some of the contents. Here's a foreword by Forrest McDonald, preface, acknowledgments, and the first chapter is "Such a Government as the People Will Approve," the Great Convention as Comic Action. And the second chapter is "The Best Constitution in Existence," the influence of the British example on the framers of the framers of our fundamental law. Third chapter is "The Process of Ratification, a Study in Political Dynamics." For a dike to fence out the flood, the ratification of the Constitution in Massachusetts. Chapter 5 is "Preserving the Birthright, the Intention of South Carolina, and Adopting the United States Constitution." Chapter 6, "A Great Refusal, North Carolina Ratification Convention of 1788. Religion and the Framers, the Biographical Evidences." In Chapter 8, "Changed Only a Little, the Reconstruction Amendments and the Democratic Constitution of 1787. It has an epilogue, "The Comforting Delusion." And this is there's notes in the index. I haven't read it yet, so I can't really. Again, I can't comment on it. I can read a bit from it, but I just wanted to show off these books. Right quick. This one is "Church, State, and Original Intent" by Donald L. Drakeman. I think I had another constitutional book that I wanted to get called "The Hollow Constitution," but I got this one instead. It deals with, like, the what's it called? Supreme Court decisions and stuff like that. Right here, that's what this book is about, I guess. It says "Church, State, and Original Intent." And this provocative book shows how the United States Supreme Court has used constitutional history in church-state cases. Donald L. Drakeman describes the ways in which the justices have portrayed framers' actions in a light favoring their own views about how church and state should be separated. He then marshals the historical evidence, leading to a surprising conclusion about the original meaning of the First Amendment. the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. The framers originally intended the Establishment Clause only as a prohibition against a single national church. In showing how conventional interpretations have gone astray, he casts light on the close relationship between religion and government in America and brings to life a fascinating parade of church-state constitutional controversies from the founding era to the present. And then the contents has a preface. The first chapter is the introduction, and the second chapter is Reynolds, the historical construction of constitutional reality. 3 is Everson, a case of premeditated law office history. Chapter 4, the battle for the historical high ground. Chapter 5, original meanings, where is the historical high ground. Chapter 6, incorporating originalism. Chapter 7, conclusion, and gives you a bibliography. Yeah, it gives you bibliography and an index. So it goes over all these court cases and stuff. Like, I think other books touch up on it, but I wanted to see what this book would say. Yeah, because the separation of church and state, right? I don't think it has to presuppose theistic ideas or principles of theism or something. This is what, like, James Madison, like, and he brings up the New Testament church, right? It's like the New Testament church before it became the Church of the Empire, right? I can sort of see why separation would be necessary, like how it could still be considered a Christian nation even without an imperial national church, right? And it's like the New Testament church starts off like a dissenting church, right? Like it was separate from the imperial order, and then later on is adopted into the religion of the empire, right? And then you can say that these apostolic roots that the Catholic and the Orthodox, like they appeal to this sort of imperial consciousness that has more to do with religion of empire, right? So those roots are actually like separate from that, right? Like it's separate from the empire, and so it's more like dissenting roots, even if they come from the Hebraic tradition, right? But the New Testament church in that empire, right, was separate from that empire, and so that's why it's like a dissenting church becoming an imperial church. How it progresses into that. I mean, I would say that'd be one good reason why you would have separation of church and state, not to de-Christianize the state, but to make sure it remains within, like, I guess, dissenting tradition. So I'll read it later. Other couple of books. This one is called Faithful Reason. And let me see. Yeah, okay, this one's forward by Carl L. Trueman, R. Trueman. This is Natural Law, Ethics for God's Glory and Art. Sorry, I went to watch my dog. This one's Faithful Reason by Andrew T. Walker. It's about natural law, ethics, God. It says natural laws everywhere, and it impacts every aspect of daily life, from moral choices such as obeying road signs to maintaining fidelity to one's spouse. In Faithful Reason, Andrew T. Walker argues that developing a Christian ethic is not only a matter of appealing to biblical authority, but also of understanding how God has ordered creation and our place in it. Walker provides a comprehensive and accessible introduction to natural law ethics from an evangelical perspective for pastors, students, and scholars. This is a quote from Sheriff Gerges, Associate Professor of Law, University of Notre Dame. This is quote, Andrew T. Walker argues that natural law thinking, sometimes dismissed as a tool of Catholic apologetics, is valuable in its own right, and for Protestants, that to affirm the integrity of human reason is not to challenge God's sovereignty, but to give him glory, not to spurn his gift of revelation, but to cultivate his gift of conscience, not to set aside his law, but to grasp its wisdom. And to those who already embrace natural law thinking, Walker urges that it allows for a wider theological frame, and even finds its home there in reflection on the humanity and reign of the man whom Christianity finds at the center of everything. In these ways, Walker's philosophical inquiry doubles as prophetic witness. Through born of recent cooperation between Catholics and Protestants, its value is broad and enduring. Looks like this. It's a nice hardcover. It came out this year. I'll read it later. And then this one's called Upon the Resurrection of Israel: Jews, Former Gentiles, Israelites, by Jason A. Staples. I was looking at Intellectual Catholicism, I think it was his channel. He was interviewing the author, and he said a lot of interesting things, and so I bought it. It's basically what the book is about. It says the gospel promoted by Paul has for many generations stirred passionate debate. The gospel proclaimed equal salvific access to Jews and Gentiles alike, but on what basis? In making sense of such a remarkable step forward in religious history, Jason Staples examines texts that have proven thoroughly resistant to easy comprehension. He traces Paul's inclusive theology to a hidden strand of thinking in the earlier Jewish story. Post-Exilic southern Judah, he boldly argues, did not simply appropriate the identity of the fallen northern kingdom of Israel. Instead, Judah maintained a notion of Israel as both a reference to the north and the ongoing reality of a broad pan-Israelite sensibility to which the descendants of both ancient kingdoms belonged. Paul's concomitant belief was that Israel's exile meant assimilation among the nations, effectively a people's death, and that its restoration, paradoxically, required Gentile inclusion to resurrect a greater Israel from the dead. This is introduction. Jews, former Gentiles, Israelites. It's about who are Paul's, this is former Gentiles. It says who are Paul's, that's the question, who are Paul's Gentiles? And it says in parentheses, former Gentiles or so. It says, quote, all Israel will be saved, end quote. Imperial ethnicity. The agenda of this work excursus the audience of Paul's letters, excursus translating key terminology, and it goes on. The last part of the section of the introduction is Jews or Judeans. Yeah, because I think he sort of sees the same thing, right? What does it mean for all Israel to be saved? It's the same head, right? The fulfillment of both Israel and the fulfillment of Adam is Jesus, right? Yeah, I take it to mean is synonymous with the salvation of all men, which means all who are in Adam. Same as saying all who are in Christ. Just depends on what you mean by in Christ. Like, you in Christ as in being initiated into the covenant, like the church, right? Or are you in Christ as you are in Adam, right? Outside the covenant, but still in Christ, because Christ is head of both the people of humanity and the people of the covenant. And so, who is your neighbor? It will always be your brother, technically. Outside the covenant, they are still brothers in Christ, according to the Adam of God, that doctrine of Paul. And so these people outside the covenant are still your brethren. And so when is your brother not ever your enemy, right? That's what I was thinking. And then the first section, the first chapters, the God of the Jews only. And there are many parts to this. One of them is an experiment in criticisms beyond the insider and outsider paradigm. And another section is two nations under God, the other Israelites. And it talks about the great divorce, Israel and Judah, great expectations, the restoration of Israel and Judah. Will the real Israelites please come back? Another section is revival in the land and Israel's ongoing exile. And other sections are there and back again, Israel and restoration eschatology. And the last part of this section is the return of the King, Jesus, and the gospel. And the second chapter is Paul and the Israel problem. And the sections are minister of the new covenant and Israel's justification. the Spirit and the New Covenant, spirits in bondage, the curse of the Torah and Israel's infidelity, smoke on the mountain, the letter and the veil, the curse of the Torah, death by exile, deliverance from the age of wrath. And the third chapter is the Israel problem and the Gentiles. There's a lot of sections. And the fourth chapter is salvation through justification, Jews and Gentiles alike. Yeah, justification by the faith of the Son of God, right? It ties into the idea of Jesus being the Adam of God, right? The faith of a man justified all men, which is dependent upon the mode of willing of one man, Jesus, right? So you bear the consequences of Jesus, the Adam of God, right? It says one died, all died, right? That means like I said before, it could mean the body of humanity suffering the consequences of its head. It's not necessarily tied to just Christians, it ties to all of humanity, right? Because the moment Paul's like, Paul says, I'm crucified with Christ, I'm buried with Christ, right? But the moment that Paul was, the moment that Jesus was crucified and buried, right? He was, Paul, right? He was not a convert, so to say. But he sees it as the Adam of God being crucified, and so that's what Paul also says, justification by faith of Christ, right? Came by the faith of a man, so who is head above all people. And so being crucified with Christ could have to do with being humanity, like the body of humanity suffering the consequences of its head, like I said. Which is why man, like, is justified by the faith of the Son of God, independent of whether they believe or not, whether they are aware of it or not, whether they are ignorant or apostate. It doesn't depend on their faith; it depends on the faith of this man named Jesus, right? Yeah, justified by grace through faith in Christ, which is still the faith of Christ, which is the faith of the man, the Adam of God, right? Now you bear the consequences of this Adam, right? Yeah. And the fifth chapter is, quote, not my people, and quote, Israel's infidelity and God's fidelity. And then chapter 6, because I have a lot of sections in between these chapters, but I'm just going to read the chapter's title. Chapter 6, God's justice and the end of the Torah. Chapter 7, the mystery of Israel's salvation. And chapter 8, chapter 8 is the end of the matter. And that's the last chapter, right? And then it goes on to give you bibliography, primary sources index, author index, subject index. And it goes over ethnic Israel, other things, but that's what it looks like that. So it's interesting, and I'm obviously interested in the topic. So if you were interested in it, you can pick it up as well. And I'll read it later. I'm still reading the other book. I'm still reading this one, The Wellspring of Liberty. It's still pretty good, interesting. But anyway, if you like my videos, please like and subscribe. Thank you and God bless.